Welcome and thanks for joining us. My guest today is Melissa Bishoping. She is the Senior Director of Security and Product Design Research at Tanium. Melissa, good to have you back.
So great to be here, Tom. Thank you.
And a lot has changed. AI is coming into the whole cybersecurity picture, and there's been some product updates and rebranding at Tanium. So why don't we start there? Remind us what you do exactly and how this is in support of the government's missions.
Absolutely. Tanium is at its core an autonomous IT platform. And when I say autonomous IT, I mean all aspects of IT. We're in 2026, where modern ecosystems, you can't have the silos of compliance and security and IT ops and help desk. They really do have to function as a cohesive unit to accomplish the mission. And so Tanium's premise is having a single view with real-time data so that you can see every endpoint, see every action, govern and have control over those actions, and then automate some of that mundane to make your teams more efficient and accomplish your mission faster.
Yeah, that idea of the endpoints as something separate and apart from the rest of the ecosystem of IT, that's getting a little long in tooth, sounds like.
It is. And I think that we've started really expanding on what do we mean when we say endpoint, right? Is the endpoint just your workstation and server and laptop? No, the endpoint includes data in the browser. The endpoint includes identity. And now we're looking at the endpoint extending into AI and agentic workflows. It's no longer just a single operating system on a single device. It really has expanded, and your visibility has to expand to match.
And we'll get into that in more detail, but you also mentioned the idea of a single view and what are the techniques you're using to help people organize all of their tools, all of their data, because this is what you hear pretty much continuously is how many tools people are working with and how much data they have to bring together to make sense of what's going on.
I think when you talk to IT leaders or security leaders, one of the things that they will all frequently sort of echo as a common struggle is the amount of time spent deconflicting, deduplicating, and consolidating data. In modern ecosystems, is it really necessary to be looking at spreadsheets of data and deduping after the fact? Like, why are we not working off of that single source of truth? I think that being able to consolidate some of your tool sets and have that unified viewpoint not only saves you time, but it's critical to confidence. We don't have the luxury of looking at 1 to 2 week old or 1 month old scans of information and using that to make decisions, especially when we're investing in AI tooling, because AI tooling relies on a foundation of good real-time data. You'll hear the example all the time about like Google Maps and navigation. You wouldn't want navigation data from 6 months ago or even from 6 hours ago. You want to know, if you live here in the DMV, you want to know what traffic is like right now, not what it was during rush hour this morning.
I was going to say, yeah, you don't even want 6 minutes ago
Yeah,
around this
exactly,
area.
exactly.
Right. So then, I mean, that used to be something that just talking about data and the deduping, deconflicting, that used to be kind of a huge activity in and of itself. And it sounds like that can be automated and abstracted for security operations people and cybersecurity people now, rather than having just data handling, management, deduping, et cetera, all those steps as a standalone function.
It can. And I think that when you have that real-time truth, when you have that data available to you and you've got confidence in that data, I want to like foot stomp on, you have to be confident that the data is accurate. And the accuracy comes from real-time updates versus knowing what data is stale and having the transparency there. But when you have that, you've now got a source of truth that you can use to make decisions. As you mature in your organization, you can then layer in automation and AI workflows on top of that quality data, pair that up with governance so that you've still got the human in the loop, because I don't think we're anywhere near the maturity where we're just going to turn over the keys to autonomous workflows and say, yeah, sure, go run my environment for me, right? We're not there. We're not going to be there anytime soon. But you've got real-time data, single source of truth, you've got transparency, you've got the right governance. Now you can supercharge your teams to make decisions faster and know that those decisions have confidence behind them. For me, that's what a absolute transformation as you modernize your organization looks like. That is how you take your junior employees and level them up. That is how you do more with less. That is how you work at the speed of the mission instead of chasing these goals.
Sure. And we should talk about the tools too, besides the data, because a lot of the data is produced by the tools. And the tools are from often different manufacturers, different publishers, different software vendors. And so the tools have to also be kind of brought to heel in the same way that the data does.
I agree. I think we have this sort of watching the Watchmen kind of mentality with a lot of our tooling, and we see a lot of customers that use our product that way. Is how do we want additional layers of verification, and we want to actually have that trust but verify approach that all of our tools are working as intended, that we don't have configuration drift, and I really do think it comes down to three things. Transparency. Where did the data come from? What was the source of the data and was it accurately collected? Governance. Do we actually have the right things in place to prevent change, to monitor change, to have the approvals for when change takes effect? And then having like measurable outcomes and workflows. You need to actually know what you're going to accomplish and how you're going to measure success. When you have those three pieces of information in place with whatever your toolkit is, you actually see success and return on the investment versus it just being shelfware. Because how many organizations purchase tooling that they can't implement because they don't have clarity and transparency on what success looks like, or they don't try. I hear that all the time of, well, I'm afraid to turn this tool on because I'm afraid it might cause an outage. Visibility and clarity in that data is how we can help build that trust and get you value, not just out of, the tools in Tanium, but out of all of the tools in your environment.
All right, then to build a modern, transformed, let's say, foundation, how do you do that? What makes a good foundational ecosystem, let's say, for technology in 2026?
Some things have modernized, some things have stayed the same. And I think that foundations still are truly based on asset visibility, accurate real-time inventory, and telemetry. If you've heard any of my presentations in the past, I talk a lot about one of the engineers at Microsoft created this incident response hierarchy of needs. And at the bottom of that hierarchy of needs is visibility, telemetry, and detection capabilities. These are the foundation of everything we do in security, but really in IT in general. You can't do autonomous IT workflows like threat hunting and automated investigations if you don't have great telemetry and real-time visibility behind it. So even though it's 2026, we've got all of these advances in technology, I still think that the foundation that, you have to put the effort in to getting your inventory and visibility. I think what's changed in 2026 is even more pressure on making it real time. It used to be that
Mhm.
asset inventory was something you could acquire over 1 week scan or what have you. It does have to be real time because the position of, your employees, the position of the people doing the work might change. The applications that get installed on their systems can change minute to minute, and that changes how you, as the operator, need to respond.
And besides in real time, also, I would think comprehensiveness. That is to say, there can't be things you don't know, or you can't see that you can't know are there anymore.
When we talk about things like, what are we hunting for as far as our threats and the risks to our environment, those unknown unknowns are the scariest things, right? Those are the things that can sneak up and really, really bite you. Um, when we're talking about visibility, it can't just stop at the endpoint. You do have to see your IoT devices. You do have to see your identity. You have to see what's in cloud and container workflows because all of those things change both your risk from a threat perspective, a security perspective, but also performance. Do you have critical workflows that aren't being accurately managed and monitored? And if they go down, it causes a significant outage to the actual mission itself.
All right, then. So that leads to, I guess, we're adding up to what you might call autonomous security. Again, with humans in the loop and so forth. So, what is autonomous security? What does it look like? And is it really totally autonomous if you still need to have governance involving people?
I think that when we talk about autonomous security, we should step back and say, what do we actually need to be automated as security practitioners? There is always going to be some level of, at least in the foreseeable future, of human investigation here. When I look at the challenges being faced in, especially in investigation and incident response, it's the time it takes to rule something a false positive or a false negative, that manual effort of data collection or collecting additional artifacts, as well as just validating, does this make sense in my environment? I think that these innovations are going to lead autonomous security to be something that educates the user and takes that bidirectional feedback. I am excited about where we're going with agentic security operations because you're going to be getting real-time data, you're going to be getting input from your technical experts, and that's going to be working with these agentic systems to help you make recommendations and decisions that you can then again trust but verify. What I expect to see is reduction in the time it takes to resolve an incident and we're going to be moving further left. We want to be able to identify these adversaries faster. We want to be able to collect the forensic evidence before it goes stale and then perform the analytics on it. I think all of that's going to get faster, which is going to make us more effective.
And how does that change the role or the activities of cybersecurity practitioners?
So there's both. I want to touch on this from two angles. One, I think this is going to help a lot of us breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief. I think, okay, I have additional tools that can help me process this vast amount of data that I just can't get through on my own. I've been in that practitioner's position, and that's something that I'm very mindful of is just the amount of data we ask the average practitioner to consume on a daily basis and make educated, accurate decisions where there's no room for error. So I think that's going to be part of it. But I think that when we're talking about training and equipping our forces, we have to teach the critical thinking and analysis of where AI can be a tool and where it can be a liability. Are you adding in the right governance? Do you have the right checks and balances? And making our security practitioners aware and educated about how to use AI responsibly as part of their workflows. Don't just assume that the recommendation it's making is perfect because it was generated by a system. Fortunately, a lot of the practitioners I know in the space have that healthy sort of apprehension of not wanting to turn over the keys. So I think security specifically will keep the human in the loop for quite some time.
Yes, but yet it's still really critical to have that AI sensibility, let's call it,
Yeah,
because AI is behind most of the attacks coming in now.
AI literacy is now a foundation of workforce development, as far as I'm concerned. And I think that goes beyond just your practitioners. I think that goes into your leaders, your commanders. Everyone needs a working knowledge of AI literacy, as I call it, because we need to be able to separate fact from fiction, marketing hype from, real technical capabilities, and make educated decisions.
Sure. And so then how do you build trust with those autonomous tools, I should say. Maybe they're anonymous, but we know they're autonomous. And so that because the end result, the end state is still good security and a good
Right.
security posture.
Transparency is critical for me, and it's something that we talk about a lot internally and something that I've had conversations with in the field. I never want to be a black box of, trust me, uh, I'm the autonomous IT. You can trust what I say. We want to provide that background of what data was used to inform this decision, what statistics, what measurements, is that data stale, and give you that confidence. One of the things that we've implemented is a confidence score to say, hey, in globally, this action was successful in 97% of implementations. Does that give you additional confidence in your organization that this is a safe change to make? And that kind of thing is really transformational because so many IT leaders, especially at the executive level, that's what they're concerned about is how safe is this? Is this risky for me to implement? So by looking at organizational and global confidence scoring, as well as complete transparency in the data itself and not just giving you a black box, we're giving you the recommendation. The autonomous IT system is giving you the recommendation, but relying on you to understand and make your own decision, using it as a co-pilot, using it as a sidekick.
Right, because organizations do have their risk management profiles
Mhm.
that they have carefully developed. So you I guess, would need to map these confidence scores against your risk management.
Yeah, and that's
No,
going to vary. We don't presume to tell you what your risk tolerance is, but we do believe that good risk management is informed by the real-time data and the confidence scoring. It becomes a piece of information to help you manage that.
right. So not only does your IT and your security become autonomous, but your security posture and your approach, let's say, becomes continuous and continuously adapting, sounds like.
It absolutely does. And I'm a big fan of where we're going in the realm of, if you've heard of continuous threat exposure management, that's an acronym I'm a big fan of, because we're looking not just at what is my posture today and what is the threat landscape today, but we're looking at it in the minute, in real time. How do we look at how things change and how that impacts our risk? And are we validating, improving, taking those lessons learned, doing this whole cyclical approach to exposure management, I think is really going to uh, mature a lot of organizations faster than doing kind of the old do a scan, do some patches, do another scan. That's no longer sufficient in 2026.
And the other big initiative that's still with us, in fact, maybe more important than ever, really, is zero trust. So, talk about how autonomous IT and zero trust mesh.
I think they're inseparable. I think that for zero trust to be effective, you have to actually understand device state at the moment a device is requesting access to something. And when, let's say, you're in a zero trust implementation and you've got outdated data, you could be denying access to a resource based on stale data, right? You could also be, maybe the data is not stale, maybe it's factual, but it takes time for the remediation to reach the endpoint, which then just delays that endpoint's access. Now, that's delaying someone's ability to accomplish their work, to accomplish the mission. So, how does autonomous IT support zero trust? You've got the opportunity to have these governed workflows that can go out and repair the endpoint state, get it back to a known good state, get it back to a compliant state, to not impede zero trust, to not impede the workflow of the engineer or the employee or the service member who's doing the job. They need to be able to access resources. They need to be able to have their mission unencumbered. You need to be able to enforce security. So real-time autonomous IT allows you to get the state of the endpoint, to prescribe fixes, to automate that, and to not necessarily need to wait for a single ticket to come in or for an individual to manually remote in and patch a system. We don't have time for that. The mission moves faster than that.
All right. Well, let me ask you this: as you're on the research end and the product research end, what are some of the themes you are focusing on personally?
Yeah, I think that for 2026, this was something that I really kind of thought on through the holiday season and through the downtime, is where are we headed? What's important? Workflows. We're not looking at solving for specific moment in time problem sets. I really want to focus on these workflow driven solutions. And I want to look holistically, much like the platform supports compliance and security and operations. I want to look at workflows that marry all the people that touch your IT infrastructure, so that they have that single source of truth, so that they have clear context, so that they have the actual recommendations and actions. My team is great. We provide a lot of detailed context about why certain recommendations are being made with some of our product. So you've got clear insight, you've got actionable insight of what you should do next, and you've got the governance and the human in the loop on your side to do it. At the end of the day, I think what's important to me is to build trust with every click, with every piece of guidance that I give you, that it's based on reality, that it's based on the factual data, that it's maximizing the value of our platform, and that it's looking at a holistic workflow, that I'm not boxing you further into a silo. And then I think the other theme for me is explainability. I think that we have a great opportunity ahead of us with the advances in AI and LLMs specifically. If I can help make the end user more intelligent, more aware of what's going on in their environment, because I can explain it to them and give them an ability to explain it to their leadership, we've leveled up the entire industry. And I think that as vendors, we have a responsibility to use this technology that way, and help bring everybody else up a few levels with the work.
Right. So AI has really been the driving factor in this need and has accelerated how fast you have to really get there and how comprehensive your solution has to be.
Absolutely. I think that, it's not without risks. We all know that. We've all got a healthy level of apprehension of making sure we use AI responsibly. We're using it intelligently. We don't just, nobody wants just another chatbot, you know? And I think, though, that as practitioners, many of us see some of these capabilities as being the thing that helps us get over the mountain. We've got this mountain of backlog and we've got this mountain of data that we hadn't quite figured out how to sort through. We don't have enough people that can script and automate it all for us. So let's use these tools to our advantage. Let's use them as another tool in our toolkit, but not the only tool in our toolkit, and help advance.
And maybe we'll have a less stressed workforce that way.
I certainly hope so. The mental health and burnout aspect is near and dear to my heart, and helping prevent that continuing to have an impact on our workforce. If we can reduce burnout impact, if we can improve mental health, we're going to improve retainability, and we're going to re-inspire people to advance in their careers versus leaving this workforce.
All right, good place to end on. It's been great having you with us.
Wonderful as always, Tom. Thank you so much.
Melissa Bishoping is the Senior Director of Security and Product Design Research at Tanium.